ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ, ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਇਨ ਫੋਕਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। ਮੈਂ ਹਾਂ ਰੁਪਿੰਦਰ ਕੌਰ। ਬੀਤੇ ਹਫਤੇ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਬਜਟ 2021 ਪੇਸ਼ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ, ਜੋ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਹਿਸਟੋਰਿਕ ਬਜਟ ਹੈ। ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਪਹਿਲਾ ਬਜਟ ਹੈ ਜੋ ਫਰਸਟ ਫੀਮੇਲ ਫਾਈਨਾਂਸ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਪੇਸ਼ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ। ਕੀ ਹੈ ਇਸ ਵਾਰ ਦੇ ਬਜਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਖਾਸ? ਐਸੇ ਤੇ ਰਹੇਗੀ ਅਦਾਲਤ ਸਾਡੀ ਅੱਜ ਦੀ ਹੈ ਖਾਸ ਪੇਸ਼ਕਸ਼। ਫੈਡਰਲ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਪੇਸ਼ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਬਜਟ 2021 ਪੈਂਡੈਮਿਕ ਇਕਨੋਮਿਕ ਰਿਕਵਰੀ ਨੂੰ ਮੁੱਖ ਰੱਖਦਾ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਇਸ ਬਜਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਨੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਚਾਈਲਡ ਕੇਅਰ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ, ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਤਹਿਤ $30 ਬਿਲੀਅਨ ਇਨਵੈਸਟ ਕੀਤੇ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਟੀਚਾ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ ਕਿ 2026 ਤੱਕ $10 ਇੱਕ ਦਿਨ ਦੇ ਹਿਸਾਬ ਨਾਲ ਚਾਈਲਡ ਕੇਅਰ ਮੁਹੱਈਆ ਕਰਵਾਇਆ ਜਾਏਗਾ। ਹੋਰ ਕੀ ਕੁਝ ਹੈ ਬਜਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਖਾਸ, ਇਸ ਸੰਬੰਧੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਆਫ ਫੈਮਿਲੀਜ਼, ਚਿਲਡਰਨ ਐਂਡ ਸੋਸ਼ਲ ਡਿਵੈਲਪਮੈਂਟ ਅਹਿਮਦ ਹੁਸੈਨ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ।
Hello, Minister. Thank you so much for taking out time for PTC.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
To understand more about the budget, let's start with the child care. As $30 billion have been invested in the child care. To understand it more, Quebec is having it, and very soon, Canada, rest of the Canada will have it. You are playing a central role in it. So tell us more about it. How is that going to work?
Well, this budget is about supporting Canadians to get through the pandemic, but it's also about building a strong and inclusive economic recovery after the pandemic. Those are the two goals of this budget. Part of that focus is also introducing a Canada-wide system of early learning and childcare, $30 billion to be spent over the next 5 years to do two things. One, to achieve a childcare daily fee reduction of average 50% by the end of 2022. So reduce the childcare fees that parents are paying now across the country by an average of 50% by the end of 2022, and then bring it down further to an average of $10 a day by 2025-2026. That's what we're planning to do. And then after the 5 years, spend $9.2 billion every year permanently to support this Canada-wide system of early learning and childcare so that no child is left behind and every child has access to affordable but very high quality childcare.
But this is going to be a cost-sharing program with the provinces. So
Yes.
how is the government going to convince all the provinces to take part in it?
First of all, this is not the first time we will be working with provinces and territories on early learning and childcare. We already have bilateral agreements uh, which allow federal investment in the creation of affordable childcare throughout Canada. So we've already been working with provinces and territories on bilateral agreements. This is the next chapter in our relationship. Second, the Canadian public is demanding affordable childcare. Business groups, chambers of commerce, labor unions, and many advocates, women's groups, children's groups, have been calling for this for a very long time. But what has changed is now new players are also calling for it, the business community. And the pandemic has really highlighted the importance of affordable childcare to allow women to return to work. There's hundreds of thousands of women who are kept out of the workforce because they cannot get access to affordable childcare. That has to end. And finally, on the issue of the provinces and territories, many provinces and territories are already publicly saying that they will sign on to a Canada-wide system of early learning and childcare. So there's momentum, and obviously we're going to sit down, we're going to negotiate, and we're going to move ahead.
When you say negotiation is going to be for the amount too, because all the provinces are going to put amount on the table. So how would that amount will be fixed?
Well, we are putting our amount on the table now. We are showing good faith. We're showing seriousness and ambition because we're putting $30 billion on the table for 5 years, and then we're committing to $9.2 billion every year after that, permanently. So what that does is it shows provinces and territories that we are serious, we are ambitious, and we are providing long-term, sustainable, stable funding, predictable funding, so that they have the confidence to know that if they sign on to this system, that we will be with them for the long term.
So as the government is saying that this budget is about pandemic recovery, so how this budget aims to get Canadians back to work?
In a number of ways. First of all, as I already said, early learning and childcare, more affordable early learning and childcare will allow hundreds of thousands of women to go back to the workforce. So that's a big economic recovery piece that we need, and a lot of non-governmental groups are saying the exact same thing. Second, we are investing right now in youth, $5.7 billion to enable youth to get new skills, to get the jobs of tomorrow. We will be creating 215,000 jobs for youth through that $5.7 billion total investment. We will be doubling the Canada Student Grant to allow more young people to pursue their education or continue and finish their education. There is a huge amount of investment in more affordable housing options for Canadians. $1.5 billion being invested in the additional dollars being invested in the Rapid Housing Initiative. Um, more money for the National Housing Co-Investment Fund, more money to enable the acquisition of commercial properties to turn them into affordable rental housing and residences. Investments in to enable businesses. You see, if businesses collapse because we don't support them, it'll be harder for them to recover. Jobs will take longer to come back. Canadians will go through a more painful recovery. So when you see what we're doing by extending the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, extending the Canada Emergency Business Account, that helps businesses stay in place and continue to hire Canadians. That's how you recover. You recover faster by keeping people uh, by making businesses and people able to withstand the economic shock of COVID-19 pandemic. The Canada Recovery Benefit, extending that. The Canada Emergency Rent Subsidy for businesses, extending that. Extending EI supports. That's how you keep businesses and people and nonprofits and families moving forward. If you look at the jobs that we lost at the very beginning of the pandemic, 80% of those jobs have come back. If you compare that with the United States, only 50% of those jobs have come back. That shows you that our plan on investing in people now is working. If you don't invest in people now, and if you don't support businesses to get through this pandemic, what will happen is what happened in 2008, where the conservative government at the time did not invest in people, didn't invest in the community. And what happened is we had a recession. It took us much longer to come out of that recession. The economy took longer to recover. We are already seeing very good signs of economic recovery now. And we hope with the investments that we're making now that we will have a very strong, inclusive economic recovery.
Definitely, Minister, the benefits are helping, but there is another concern about the real estate market. We know the tax has been introduced on the
Yes.
foreign empty homes, but will this help cool down the market?
Well, that's I mean, it is about enabling more homes to become available for Canadians. So that 1% tax will be charged to non-resident, non-Canadian owned real estate that is vacant or underused. And all non-resident, non-Canadians will be required to file information every year to show the status of their real estate, and failure to do so will result in penalties. The 1% tax on non-resident, non-Canadian real estate that is vacant or underused will bring in $700 million, and we intend to invest that $700 million back into Canadians so that they can afford housing. The other thing that we're also doing is deploying and further improving the first-time homebuyer incentive to allow first-time homebuyers to access their dream of home ownership by helping them put down up to 10% of the value of the home as a down payment. So the government of Canada will enter or is entering, because it's an existing program, into a shared equity mortgage with first-time homebuyers. That program has been ongoing, but we will improve it to make it more relevant and real for people in the Greater Toronto area, the Greater Vancouver area, and Victoria.
Well, Minister, at the end, I would like to know why government believe this is the right budget when opposition doesn't believe that.
Because we've seen what happens if you don't invest in people. As I said, in 2008, we had a recession. The government refused to invest in people. They didn't provide supports for businesses. They didn't provide supports for the nonprofit sector. They didn't provide supports for families, and the recession was more painful. It took longer to recover from that recession. It was unnecessary to do that, and so we know that austerity is not the way to growth. Many countries have tried that; it didn't work. So what we have to do is help people at the time of COVID, because COVID is still ongoing, even though vaccinations are increasing every single day. We have to help people now. Canadians need help now. Canadians need help paying the rent. Canadians need help putting food on the table. We have to be there for families. We have to be there for businesses. We have to be there for children and seniors and the nonprofit sector. But we also have to invest now for a stronger economic recovery. The measures we're taking under Budget 2021 will ensure that we have a very strong economic recovery.
Well, Minister, thank you so much for giving out time for PTC Punjabi and stay safe.
Thank you so much.
ਤੇ ਫਿਲਹਾਲ ਸਮਾਂ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਇੱਕ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਦਾ। ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਮੁਲਾਕਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਟਰਾਂਸਪੋਰਟ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਉਮਰ ਅਲਗਾਬਰਾ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ। ਇੱਕ ਛੋਟੀ ਜਿਹੀ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ। ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਫਿਰ ਤੋਂ ਇਨ ਫੋਕਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਵਾਰ ਦੇ ਬਜਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਪੈਂਡੈਮਿਕ ਇਕਨੋਮਿਕ ਰਿਕਵਰੀ ਨੂੰ ਤਵੱਜੋ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ, ਇਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਕੀ ਕੁਝ ਹੈ ਐਰੋਸਪੇਸ ਸੈਕਟਰ ਲਈ ਖਾਸ, ਐਸੇ ਸੰਬੰਧੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਟਰਾਂਸਪੋਰਟ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਉਮਰ ਅਲਗਾਬਰਾ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ।
Hello, Minister Algabra, and thank you so much for taking out your time for PTC.
Thank you very much for giving me the time to be with you.
Minister, if we look at the federal budget 2021, it delivers key promises and the big promises with $101 billion spending. If we talk about the major promises like childcare and extra benefits that is the government is giving, we'll talk about that. But first, I would like to begin with your department. The aerospace sector is one of the Canada's traditional economic pillar, but it just has the passing reference in the budget speech. The sector is facing longer path to recovery. What is federal budget proposing for this sector?
For the transportation sector, there's a lot of money in this budget for the transit sector. And let me say that this is a historic budget. This was the first budget in Canada's history to be tabled by a woman finance minister. This is a pandemic budget, which obviously is adding a lot of stress and pressure on Canadians and Canadian businesses. And also, it's a historic budget because it really proposes fundamental changes to a lot of the things that we've been doing. To talk about what you're asking, first and foremost, there's $15 billion in the budget for public transit. That's a significant investment, particularly for us in the GTA, because we know we need more investment in public transit. There's also $2 billion in this budget for transport through the Trade Corridor Fund. This is a fund to build infrastructure that facilitates trade, whether it's road, airport, bridges, ports. So this is a significant amount of money to help build infrastructure to increase economic activities in Canada and create jobs. There's also money in there for the aerospace sector. The aerospace sector has been really hit hard because of the pandemic, because of the travel restrictions. So we're talking about significant amount of investment to ensure that our aerospace sector is strong and resilient and creates jobs. There's money in there for airports. We are talking about preparing airports. Again, the pandemic has exposed a lot of vulnerabilities, and one of the things that we know now we need at airports is infrastructure for testing, making sure that the interaction between the passenger and the airport is touchless. So there's about $100 million in the budget for that. So there's significant, there's in there money for zero emission vehicles. to ensure that we have infrastructure for electric vehicles, charging stations, etc. So there's significant investment in the budget for the transportation sector.
Well, Minister, if we look at the other announcement, there is another key important announcement related to childcare. $30 billion investment until 2026, $10 per day for childcare. Quebec is already having it, and very soon we hope rest of the Canada will have it. But it's a cost-sharing program with the provinces. How difficult do you think it would be to convince the provinces?
Look, let me step back and say that the budget has 4 major themes to it. First is that we want to continue to the fight against COVID. We want to defeat COVID. We want to declare victory on COVID, and hopefully we will do so this year. Because as long as COVID is amongst us, it's going to be hard for us to have a revived, vibrant economy. The second theme of the budget is economic recovery. COVID has caused significant economic recession. We want to make sure that the government is there to support entrepreneurs, businesses, create jobs for individuals, and there's significant investment in there to support businesses and to create jobs. The third theme is to continue our fight against another crisis, which is climate change. And in that theme, there are significant investments to help businesses and individuals adopt to new ways of cutting pollution and creating new jobs under new technologies. And the last theme is building the infrastructure that we need for long-term success and long-term prosperity. So one of those elements is what you talked about. This is a fundamental change of how we do things, which is a national, high-quality, affordable daycare program. Many families in my area, in my city of Mississauga, have been paying, if they're lucky to find daycare spots, they've been paying upwards of $1,500 to $2,000 a month per child. And it's been very difficult. And like you said, we saw Quebec has a great program that is affordable, that is accessible. So we want to make sure that we change this. And the reason why we're doing this is twofold or multiple folds. One of them, a lot of families, as I said, have been paying a lot of money. So this next year, we're proposing that we cut it by 50%. So that $1,500 to $2,000 a month, that's an additional $750 to $1,000 a month per child in the family's pocket. That's money in people's pocket. Second, to give the opportunity for women who want to go back to work, to give them the choice. They can say, okay, I can now afford daycare and I want to go back to work. So that's good news for families and particularly for women, including single mothers. Third, a lot of employers are saying this is something that we need. This is important for us to find skills that we need. There are a lot of women out there, a lot of families that can't come to work because they have to look after their kids. But fourth, this is a great opportunity for kids who want to have an early learning opportunity to benefit, to interact with other kids, to have qualified educators working with them. So this is a really win-win-win for everyone. And this is an important investment. Daycare may have been seen by some as a luxury. It's not a luxury anymore. It's a necessity.
Definitely, it's a big investment and it's a necessity. But if you look at the other announcement, like extension of wage and rent subsidy program, so how long will this continue and how soon we will see minimum wage rate of $15?
Yes. So you're right. We announced the extension of wage subsidy program, commercial rent program, CERB, until September. So we're extending them to September. We're announcing also phasing out. So the percentage will change slowly, but we're extending it to September. We also announced a federal minimum wage of $15. This will be in the Budget Implementation Act. So as soon as Parliament adopts the Budget Implementation Act, we will see federally regulated sectors to have a $15 an hour minimum wage. And hopefully other provinces will follow suit. As you may know, most of labor code falls under the provincial jurisdictions. So for example, in Ontario now, it's $14 an hour. Hopefully they'll follow suit, the federal government, and raise it as well.
But Minister, if we look at the opposition reaction, Conservatives feel this is an election budget. Then why Liberals feel this is the right budget?
You know, when a Conservative says this is an election budget, you know what they're saying? They are saying this is the right budget. Because, and what does it mean, an election budget? It means it's people approve of it. It means that people support it. So what are they saying? They're saying this is a good budget. But they're just, because of partisan reasons, they don't want to admit that it's a good budget. So the only thing they say, oh, it's an election budget. It is, it's not about election. It's about doing the right things for Canadians at a difficult time. Canadians are going through a difficult time. Canadian economy is going through a difficult time. And if out of all times in Canada's history, this is the right time for the government to step up and offer support for Canadians. So the Conservatives are saying it's election budget, but secretly that what they mean by that is that Canadians agree with us and they support us. So that's all you need to know.
Minister, at the end, anything you would like to add, which I am missing, the key part of this budget?
There are a lot of other parts of the budget, including significant investment for affordable housing. I know you've spoken with Minister Hussein. And by the way, in addition to increasing the supply for rental units that this budget will do, I feel it will also have a bigger impact on the real estate market because it will increase supply. So hopefully it will have a positive impact on cooling down the market. Also, we introduced a tax on properties that are owned by foreigners and left vacant, because we discovered that there are some investors who are living abroad, buying properties, speculating, keeping it vacant, hopefully to sell it in a few months down the road to make money off it. We're saying we're going to discourage people from doing that. So if a foreigner buys a property, and if they rent it out, that's fine. But if they keep it vacant, we're going to introduce a new tax on it. And that's going to be good for, I think, the real estate market here in Canada for people who are trying to buy homes. So I think that's really good. The other thing we're doing is that we're expanding the working tax credit. This is for Canadians who are on limited income. Now we're basically providing a tax cut for Canadians who are making around $25,000 a year. They're going to get a tax cut so they can keep money in their pocket. And by the way, who are these people? Those are frontline workers who served us at grocery stores, at essential workplaces during the pandemic. They deserve a pay hike. We're giving them a pay hike through that tax credit.
Well, thank you so much, Minister, for taking out your time and talking to us. Thank you so much and stay safe.
Thank you very much, and you too.
ਸੋ ਹੁਣ ਤੱਕ ਲਈ ਬਸ ਇੰਨਾ ਹੀ। ਫਿਲਹਾਲ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਦਿਓ ਇਜਾਜ਼ਤ। ਤੁਸੀਂ ਰੱਖੋ ਆਪਣਾ ਖਿਆਲ ਤੇ ਦੇਸ਼ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੀਆਂ ਖਬਰਾਂ ਲਈ ਬਣੇ ਰਹੋ PTC ਦੇ ਨਾਲ।